Okay. So tonight we'll be looking at metrics, agile metrics. Our focus mainly will be on the velocity and the burn down chart. I'll make mention of the others. I won't go deep into maybe what the main and all that, but just to tell you that we have different types of charts. But like I said, the focus for us tonight will be the velocity and the burn down charts. Okay, so I hide this off. Right, so we'll look at the meaning, we'll look at the uses. Why do you have to use them? What types do we have? We'll look at some of the benefits that we get from using those charts. We'll look at some few samples to have an understanding of what they are and their components. We'll look at their location on the Azure DevOps board, the source for them, and then we will do a bit of workshop to round up by going on your project board and trying to generate these two. I think we should be able to generate them now because you've been in your sprint one for a while. So we should be able to generate them because we need the data to be able to generate them, but we should be able to do that. Okay. So I'll just take metrics first as simple terms. What are metrics? They're just measurements, or standards that you use to track something. So either assess a progress, assess a performance, or look at the quality of something. If you look at the image we have there, you have tape measures. You can have a yard, or you can have material. What helps you to know the how will I put it now? The number of yards you have there is when you have a tape measure to measure. And then that helps you also to know what you can use it for. If a tall person comes with a material and said, "Oh, I want you to sew me a gown, I want to sew a skirt, and I want to sew a blazer, or whatever I need," the tailor or the fashion designer will have to measure the cloth first, measure that person, and then be able to decide, oh, is this able to, do what you want? So it's a form of standard to track or to assess quality, to assess either the length or the capacity of something. That's what layman in lay terms we can say the metrics is. Okay, so for a sales company, their own metrics are different. So for like in a business now, the sales number would be a metric, or the sales numbers are metrics to measure how well their products are selling. So they need the sales, number to say, oh, we had 36 new customers, we sold this thing, this is what we got back, or our customer number has increased or decreased. That will help them, to know how their sales performance is doing or their product is doing in the market. So that would be their own metrics to measure their sales, how their sales is performing. For a student in school, the grade is the metrics to show how well the student is doing. So they've been taught, the teacher needs to know how well have they received or comprehended or understood what they've been taught. So they do an exam and then they mark and give them scores. And the scores helps the student to know how well they are doing, in school or in the subjects that is being done. So when it comes to software also, we can say that for a software product, the response time or the error rate can be metrics also to measure how well that system is performing. At times it could be the CPU usage. Are they increasing their CPU usage, or they still the same thing? So if they're increasing their CPU usage, that means they are getting more customers. So they had to increase, the CPU that they're using before. It could be their security exposure. Those things measure performance, as we can see. So your metrics can track progress and also can measure performance, so to say. Okay, so these are just for, like I said, for the layman, if we're looking at what metrics are. in layman's terms, or and also using example to that effect. But when it comes to agile, you're looking at agile. In agile, metrics are tools that are used to measure the progress. It can measure performance or effectiveness of a team or the project or the process that they're using. Okay. So metrics when it comes to Scrum or Agile are tools that you use to provide insight into the productivity of a software, the product, or the team's progress itself, or the services development life cycle, depending. It could be a product or a process or a service life cycle. So that's what your metrics measures or tracks, depending on what you want to use. And they are graphical representations which they display, like we said, either the performance is what they're displaying, or the progress, or the effectiveness of that team, of the project itself, or the process that is being used over a defined timeline. So your metric starts from it has a start time and an end time that you're measuring. Let's look at the one we talked about the business. So the business can be looking at what is the sales performance for the month of October. So that means they will be tracking that sales from October 1st to the 31st of October. The same happens with metrics when you come to Agile also. It has a defined timeline that is tracking and is giving you information about. Okay, so why or what do we use this metrics to see? It helps us to visualize the project. We're able to see the project. We're able to see what is being done on the project. It measures the amount of work that has been completed against time. And then it also looks at what is still available for that particular time, what has been done, what is remaining, what is the timeline remaining, to complete the work that is outstanding. It also measures what has been planned against what has been completed. This is what we planned. This is what we have done. Okay. And then you can use it also to forecast for future sprint based on, the performance that you have. I'll keep using that business one to give us, kind of an understanding. So if in a business now that we looked at the October performance, sales performance, and it's very good, that will motivate either the marketing team or the sales team themselves, to want to do more because they can see the results of what they've done before. The same thing with metrics when it comes to agile or the team's performance. It motivates them to want to do more. Okay. So team's deliverables that you can get a metric from would be the success of the sprint goal. So at the end of the sprint, when the team are able to complete the goal for the sprint, achieve everything, can be a measure of success for that team. And your Scrum chart also are tools that you can use to, see the deliverables or the success of that particular team or the sprints in question. Okay. And then the team's effectiveness also, time to the market. Let's assume that this is a product where at the end of every sprint, there is a release. So if that feature that has been requested for a particular sprint has been achieved at that end of the sprint and it needs to, be released to prod, to live environment so that end users can use it. They use it. There are good feedbacks coming back from it. That is the time, from development to the market. Also looks at the team's effectiveness. The ROI talks about return of investment. So whosoever is the project sponsor that has put money into that, by the time value is being gained from that particular component or feature that is being released, whatsoever profit or value, let me say profit that comes back from that is return on the investment they have put in that particular feature in order to be able to create it. And then you're looking at capital redeployment. So whatsoever capital comes back, they're able to deploy it into something else more, upgrade either the product itself or add more feature, more components based on most times end users feedback. They're able to put that capital into either making it bigger, you know um delving into other parts of that particular product that they've not developed, upgrade it, let me put it that way better, so that there might be more customers more end users or even existing end users using new features that has been put on that particular product to use. You can see with mobile phones, they keep adding or upgrading their phones and all that into more. Like Apple will do version this time around, and once they've made their return on investment on it, maybe after 1 year, 2 years or thereabout, there's another version coming out. So they're able to redeploy the capital they've used to make that first one where they've gained their money back to upgrade to make another one. And before you know it, the person that is using version 7 before feels version 7 in out of vogue, and then they go for the version 8 that would come out. And that's part of effectiveness. That's part of what the effectiveness of the team that is building, all the organization, the project sponsors themselves who are pouring, money into improving their product, so to say, and make growth and make market value and make product profit from whatsoever their product is. And then you're looking at the team's growth and improvement also helps. These are the things that metrics using of metrics helps you to gain, and that can also serve as a metrics on their own that you can use to measure effectiveness. You can use to measure deliverables. You can use to measure the team's growth. How is the team growing? Their satisfaction is a way to measure their growth. The performance level is a way to measure their growth. And then they can put improvements in place. So if we look at our satisfaction, we feel, well, we're 50% satisfied. And then you go into the retrospective meeting and wonder, okay, so why are we actually 50%? Why can't we be 80 or even 100% satisfied with what we've done? They make those, they reflect on their performance at that meeting, and then they're able to put improvement in place. Okay, upgrading on any product is improvement, isn't it? Enhancing any product is improvement. So also the team that is building it needs also to grow, and growth has to do with improvement. Okay, so these are some of the uses of having a matrix when it comes to Agile. Okay, so quickly, just looking at the types of metrics you have in Agile or Scrum. You have the burn down chart, which, like I said, we will talk about tonight. You have the burn up chart. You have the velocity chart. You have the cumulative flow diagram. You have the capacity chart. You have the work item chart, sprint overview chart, code chart, which the developers and the QAs use, the pipeline chart, again, developers and QAs test plan charts for the QAs. And all these can be plotted on the dashboard. Okay. So the pipeline one, the test plan one will definitely be the developers plotting those ones. It won't be you, the Scrum Master. But when you have technical Scrum Masters, definitely they understand it and they can also um test it also. Okay. So, but the ones we're focusing on tonight would, like I said, it would be the burn down chart and the velocity chart, because those are the ones most times that Scrum Masters, ADM, APM, those are the ones you use, in your report, or the ones that you can track, look at, and help use to you can use to help the team to motivate them most times, maybe even during the sprint or during retrospective, in order to reflect and then maybe discuss and then put improvement in place. Okay, so we're starting off with the burn down chart. When we look at the burn down chart, what do we mean by burn down chart? So mainly it displays the team's remaining work and time available to complete it. So it's a visual representation, that shows work progress of a team in a sprint. So your burn down chart is looking at a sprint. Some burn down chart looks at the release. So depending on what you configure it to show you, but it looks at the work progress of a team in a sprint. It displays what has been completed. It displays what is remaining within the time that is remaining for that sprint to end. Okay, and then when you look at the uses of a burn down chart, why do we need to use a burn down chart? It helps you to track actual work that has been completed. So you're able to see we committed to 10 PBI, and maybe mid sprint we've done 4, or mid sprint we've done 3. you're able to see that actual work remaining or what has been completed and what is remaining. And then it helps the team also to know whether they can achieve the sprint goal within the timeline that is remaining. Okay, depending on the number of work items that are remaining and depending on the exact time where the team is, they are able to determine, oh, are we able to complete it, the sprint, achieve the sprint goal, or are we not able to? Because your charts tracks real time. The real time, what is going on your board is what your chart is tracking on your dashboard. Okay. And then quickly, we just want to look at some benefits and then I'll go into the components, the things you would normally see on a burn down chart and what it means. Okay, so your burn down chart is easy to read. Initially, you might feel, oh, I don't know what it's saying. I don't even know some of the things. But when you understand the components and why those components are there, then your burn down chart becomes easy for you to read. It motivates the team to focus and perform. So when they see where they are, what has been done, what is remaining, it helps to refocus them. Let me put it that way, or to keep them on track and then help them to perform. It also maintain an effective collaboration amongst the team members. So when we see the burn down chart, at times we're able to collaborate. Where is the bottleneck? What is delaying us? Why is the burn down, not burning? Why is it just flat and not burning down? They go back on their board, check what is happening, be able to resolve any block or impediment that is in place because they're looking at the burn down chart, which is able to tell them, that at times. And as a Scrum Master or ADM or APM also, there are times when you're looking at the board, you're not able to see really, where the issue is, but your chart would show you what is going on the board. Yeah, it gives you projection and it shows you what is going on the board. The days that are flat, if you have 2 to 3 days that are flat, you're able to go back to the team to say, we're not closing any story or we're not closing any task. What is going on? Do we have any impediments? Discuss with them. If there's an impediment, resolve it. It could also be that that particular story has been completed. It's just that they've not moved it, to done. And because they've not moved it, the chart won't pick it as if it is done. Because as far as the chart is concerned, it has not gone to where it needs to go to for the burn down line to go down. Okay, so these are some of the things that you can do. So your chart, the burn down chart, gives you an overall view of what is going on your board. Okay, and then it also helps you, like I said earlier on, to know whether deadline can be achieved. Are we going to achieve the goal that has been committed into the sprint? Okay, so if we look at the component aspect of the burn down chart, I'll just use my cursor to help out. So where you have the completed percentage, that's telling you that you've completed 97% of maybe what you've committed to, what is on the board. That's what the completed tells you. You have the title of the burn down. So anybody on your chart, your dashboard looking at it, the name you have at the top here, which is part of what you configure when you're generating the chart, would tell the person what they're looking at. Okay, so for this particular one, it's a release burn down, and that's why you see that there are different sprints, not days. So over here, what on your horizontal line, what you see are the days, okay, or the sprints. But normally, if it's a sprint burn down, what you have at the bottom here is days, which we'll see an example of that later on. And then what you have on this side here are mainly your story points. Okay, so all these ones here are the story points on the vertical line. Okay, so like I said, it will give you the title, it will give you the date duration. So this is looking at release burn down, and you can see it's put the date duration of that release burn down, the date range is put it there. Okay, so over here you have average burn down, and this is just saying that averagely this is how the team is burning. Not that they've burned down 32 user story. No, it's just saying averagely this is how, like, more like their pace. This is how they're working. This is how they're burning down. Most times when it's on the positive side, that means they're doing well. They're burning down well. When it's on the negative side, that means they're not burning down as the chart expressed them to, based on the capacity that is inside that sprint based on the workload. It would give a minus at times when it feels things are not burning down the way they should. So that is an indicator for you also to go back to the team, to talk to the team, maybe during the stand-up, to say, okay, guys, we have enough capacity, but what the work is not just, getting to done as it should. Is there any blocker? So you're not going there to accuse, you're just, kind of concerned and saying, what is happening? Why are work not getting completed? Is it that we have a blocker? Is whatever the issue is, they're able to discuss, resolve it so that, work can move on as it should. And then over here, you can see that it will even tell you the work items that are not itemized. So over here, you can see items not itemized. It would give you the number. So peradventure, there are any work items in the screen that have not been story pointed and all that, is able to give you that. So it's left for you as a Scrum Master to go and look for that, to check it, and then check whosoever is working on it, and then reach out to the person to say, hey, this one has not been story pointed, or talk to the whole team, because it's not one person that is meant to story point anyway. It's a collaborative effort, but to be able to talk to the team. And if you as a Scrum Master knows that when you're doing the sprint planning, everything was estimated, then you want to check the ones that are in that have not been estimated. Has anything been brought in, in the course of the sprint that people are not aware of, and the team members are working on it? When you find it, you check it on the board. When you find it, you're able to bring it up at stand up to say, oh, I noticed we have this in the sprint and all that. I don't know when it came in. If there's a name assigned to it, you're able to check with that person and get get an answer or get it resolved. You might be on the board and you might not see that, but you can see your chat will be able to, help you know that there's things like that on the board. And then over here is looking at the remaining story points. So over here, it's saying that there is still 124 story points remaining. And you can see it says that's the main metric. That's the main thing that is being tracked, the work that is remaining. Remember what we said, that the work that is being completed versus the work that is remaining is what this metric is tracking. So it's looking at it here, that is remaining that, and is also giving the total scope increase, that there has been a 26 story point increase added, which is the same thing as increase, since we started the sprint. Okay. And then it gives also a projected completion date. So it's looking at it and saying, at the pace at which they're working and where the work is at that time, they're going to need one more sprint to complete. Remember we said this is a release burn down. It gives that also, and it puts that in red, to it's kind of an alert. So also, if it had been a sprint, it would have given a projection to say, oh, at the rate at which you're going, at the end of that day there, you will need 20 something more days or 3 more days. And that's what you want to show your team members, so that it helps them to focus, and then you're not trying to pressure them, so that we don't want them to rush and make mistakes. But at the same time, peradventure, they've not been focused, they're distracted. That helps them to, motivate them to be focused and get back to what needs to be done. Now, the yellow line you see at the top here is the total scope line. Okay, so the total scope, looking at, okay, when we started at 400 story point was what was committed to the sprint. And then as time goes on, you can see that line is not straight, it's increasing. So that's able to show you the total scope increase that you have here, that, okay, truly things have increased. By the time we're going towards the end, they're not even at the end yet, but going towards the end is showing that things have increased. So that would also be accounted for. So that is the total scope line. The yellow one is the total scope line. You can see it at the bottom here also, that is what it calls it to be. And then the blue bars are the remaining work. Okay, and the gray line you see down here is the burn down line. Okay, that is the burn down line. That is the line showing how things are burning down. So if you look at this one, when they started, it went down. Okay, so your burn down line is meant to go straight down. That is the ideal line. The ideal line goes straight down. But when you can see that most times teams don't achieve that ideal line. You can see that towards the fourth sprint, thereabouts, there was an increase. They added there was the scope increase over there, and then they burned down again. They're still burning down, and then it went up again here, went down again, and things were added to it. So you can see the line going, the way it's going. So if once it's this way, even though things are being added and it's still burning down, the burn down line at no point did not meet with the total scope line. So over here, even though it's going up and down and all that, like I said, it's a good burn down. And you can see that's part of what the average is saying here. It's positive. In a situation where you have your burn down line meeting with your scope line or going above the scope line, that is when you have a minus there. And that shows that things are not burning. It's not even burning down at all. It's either it's static, and then you will have this burn down line being straight. When nothing is being burned, and when it's straight and things are being added and added, there is no point where it won't meet the scope. So that's some of the things you want to be aware of, that the burn down line is not meeting with the scope. And you just keep monitoring and encouraging the team. There's nothing stopping when you have time during stand-up at times to quickly, I'll show you where it is, where you can quickly just show them that, okay, this is this is our burn down for now and all that. But at times, if they don't understand what the burn down chart is saying and you're showing them, it can be very unproductive. It only works for teams that you've already coached and they understand what the burn down is telling them, that you can show that to during the sprint, and it will motivate them to work because they know that the way it's going, they might not. The only thing for a burn down where they don't have total understanding, that they can understand, as anybody can understand, is the projected one, because it's telling them projected completion is, further than when the sprint ends. And then you can use that. But mainly, this is for you to monitor, helps you to monitor how work is progressing, even on the board, without you going on the board and, just looking, oh, I think this one was here yesterday, or I think they've moved about 2 or 3. Your burn down will tell you if something has been moved or not within the days that you have there. Okay, so those are the components that you need to understand on your burn down chart as a Scrum Master or ADM or an APM. All right, I'm just going to show us a real one because that one was from the website. Okay, so these are ones that have been picked from a project board, a normal project board. So for your burn down chart, you can create an effort burn down chart, which is tracking the story point. You can create a PBI burn down chart, which is tracking the number of product backlog items that are in the sprint. So for these two that you're seeing, they are for the same sprint, but you can see that some of the details on them are quite different because they are tracking different things. So this one is tracking the effort or the story points. Okay, that is what this is tracking. It's for the same duration, it's sprint 15, but it's the effort burn down. So those are one of the things you want to do when you start creating your generating your chart or creating them, that you're giving it the title that will help anybody looking at it to understand what they're looking at. Okay. And then you can see here that it says on the effort is they are 95% complete, but on the product backlog item, it's 90% complete. Okay, and then you can see average burn down is 1. Like I said, is good if it's on the positive side. The green bar shows you the things that has been completed. The blue one shows you the remaining work that still needed to be done. And then if you look at items not itemized here, you can see that it is 0. So that means they've estimated everything. Estimated everything that is on that sprint. And it's giving them a projected completion date here. He's saying 2 more days. So what he's saying is, even though they've come to the end of the sprint, this effort of 2 remaining will take them 2 more days to complete. And he's projecting that 2 more days based on their pace during the sprint, where they're completing work. Now, remember when I was showing us the other one that time, I did say that when they started, as you can see, when they started, they had a burn down 3 days. You can see it is flat. So that means apart from this green, for the first 3 days, that they completed, that nothing else burned down until the fourth day they went down. And then you can see 4 days. This is 4 days that work was, you can't say work was static. So actually it's not as if they're not working. So don't get it wrong to say that, oh Tim, for 4 days you're not doing anything. What you're looking at is, okay, for 4 days it's possible that we're not burning anything. Okay, let me come to the burn down line rather than using the that one. So for 3 days you could look at it and say, oh Tim, it looks as if for 3 days after it came down here, for 2 3 days we're not closing. Let me use it that we're not closing, completing work. Is there any impediment? Is there anything that was stopping us? There could be that the maybe, and you'll be surprised, it might have been discussed during stand-up. So before you go into the stand-up, let them finish what they're saying at the stand-up, so that in case this would be explained during stand-up, then you don't need to bring it up. But if everybody says, oh yeah, work is going on well, I'm progressing well, things like that and everything, then you can look at this and then be able to say that, to say, but for the past 2 days we've not closed any of the stories. Is there any impediment? Is there anything causing delay and all that? And then you can see that it went down, and then again after 2 days, nothing. And this shows you that after it went down here, you could see that there was a scope increase. That's why it went up here again. Yeah. And you can see it's showing us total scope increase of 2. So the total scope increase of 2, you can see here, it could be one of them here, and another place where you have the bump going up is here. So after it came down here, it went up a bit over here again. So that could be the 2 that you're seeing, the 2 efforts that you're seeing that is increasing the chart over there. Okay. And then the same way I explained this is the same way you will have when you come to the PBI. Also, just look at the trend, look at your burn down line. Is it burning? As there are times when it is just flat, and those are the times you want to again call out, not accusing, but just to check, why do we have this? Is there any impediment? Is there anything we need to kind of resolve? It could be that clarity is needed, more clarity was needed. They were checking things out, with the project sponsor and all that. That's why you have that there. But there would be reason. The most important thing is you're checking, you're tracking, you're monitoring, so that you are able to help the team to achieve the goal at the end of the sprint. Okay. So also there are different types of burn down charts that you can create on your dashboard. So we've looked at the effort burn down, we've looked at the PBI burn down. You also have the task burn down, which would track everything going on your sprints. Okay, so you can have the task burn down chart again. For this is still for sprint 15, as you can see, and then you can have a bug burn down chart. So don't be surprised that, oh, why is the bug not starting at the beginning? They won't find a bug at the beginning, because the developer at least have to do something first, have to develop first before the tester test. And that's when maybe they find the bugs and they're raising the bugs. And you can see that the bugs, everything was completed by the end of the sprint. So that means they fixed the bugs, they retested the bugs, everything was completed at the end of the sprint. And you can see that there was no projection, because everything was completed at the end of the sprint. Remember earlier on I talked about the minus sign. Okay, so this is minus 0.1, not really too bad, because it's 0.1, but this is the negative point that you don't want to see, in doing your sprint. And you can see that closeness a bit here with the scope line and the burn down line. You can see how close they are. Well, a good thing is that then the work went down as well as it should. The gap opened up a bit here, where they were able to complete a lot of things, but unfortunately not able to complete everything at the end of the sprint. And you'll be surprised again, like I said, they might have completed everything, just that people didn't close their task when they're supposed to. And those are the kind of things you want to check during stand up, or even before or even after stand up, and reaching out to the right person to say, oh, I noticed that the story is still there. Is it that you've completed or you've not moved it to done? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I just didn't, close it, but I've done what I need to do. And those are the kind of things you want to, so that you help the team, to close up. And then the metrics is giving accurate reading for what is going on the board. Okay, or during the sprint. Okay, so that is all about the burn down chart. Okay, so we just want to quickly touch also on the velocity chart, what we mean when we talk about the velocity chart. Okay, so that's another visual representation that displays a team's planned work and the actual completed work over a period of time, over a time frame. Okay, that's what your velocity chart is doing. Okay, so a velocity calculates stories that are 100% completed. The stories that are, it tracks the stories that are in the done, okay, versus what was planned. Okay, and you can use it. The velocity chart can be used to measure a team's completed work against what was planned. So this is what we planned to do, and this is what we do. So the velocity really looks at a team's pace. What is our pace? And are we sustaining that pace over a period of time, over some set of sprints? Have we been able to sustain our pace as a team? That is mainly what your velocity tracks. Okay. And then it measures the team's performance to scope increase. So if we have a sustainable pace that we work, when scope increase comes, how does it affect our pace? Does it drops it? Are we able to maintain it? Those are the things that your velocity, tracks. And then it tracks also the workflow. I said also the pace over a period of time. So it's not just looking, your velocity is not looking at a particular sprint. It's looking at if the metrics it gives you is reading some few sprints over a period of time. That is what your velocity is tracking. So you can't know a pace of a team with just one sprint or with just two sprints. I think basic standard they use at least anything from 6 sprints would give you a pace of a team properly. But you have the velocity, maybe definitely from the first sprint, it will give you what your velocity is. And then you can just use that to build your pace as you go along. Okay. And then it measures how long it will take also to complete a project. So with your velocity chart, a team can actually measure how long it's going to take them to complete the whole project because they have a pace that they're using to measure, that. Okay. So some the benefits and some things to consider when we're talking about velocity chart. So some of the benefits you get from using a velocity chart, again, I believe they're all easy to read. If you know the component, if you understand the component, and if you understand what is being tracked, what you're using that matrix to track, okay? What is measuring helps you to know it, and then it becomes easy for you to read it. It helps the team to improve their performance. By the time when they're looking at their pace, they're able to improve their performance. They're able to discuss their velocity during the sprints retrospective and use it to improve their performance. Okay, it helps them to forecast the number of stories or efforts they can deliver in future sprints. So if they're looking at it at full capacity, we're able to complete 80 story points. So they're looking at, we're going to the next sprint, we're still full capacity. Then that means we can, complete another 80 story points. If at the end of that sprint they were only able to complete 60 story points, that's one of the things they can take to the retro to say, in the previous sprint, if we were able to complete 80 story points, why are we not able to complete it this time around? What happened? How can we improve another? It could be complexity. It could be that the work items or the requirements this time around was more complex than what they did prior. And that's why they are not able to complete it. Do we need to break it down further then? Break our stories further down so that we're able to tackle them on time and complete them on time, rather than when we leave them big and then it takes a while for us to complete. Those are the kind of things the chat, they can use the chat to improve the ways that they work during their retrospective. Okay. Also, it gives an average velocity, and that average velocity helps the team to be able to predict realistic workload. I said earlier on that let's assume that for a particular team, it's been giving them average velocity of 80. So they know that, and that 80 was achieved while they were at full capacity. So all team members are around, nobody was on holiday, and all that were able to complete 80 story points. Now, during festive period, half of the team members have gone on holiday and we have the sprints planning. We're not going to take 80 in because half of the team members are not in. So realistically, you're looking at half of that velocity is what you want to take. Out of half of 80 is what you want to take in, because that is what that capacity that you have can manage at that particular time, because you're not full sprint. And that is what you're telling the PO. So the PO is coming and the PO noticed that, oh, the last sprint they did 80 story points. So I'm going to take 80 story points into the sprint for them to work on. And then you, as a Scrum Master, ADM, you are negotiating that with the product owner to say half of the team members are not available. So there's no way we can do 80 story points. We'll be able to do 40, 45. You can give a buffer, of maybe 40, 45 and all that. And then that is what you commit to in order to be able to achieve. Because if you take that 80 in, definitely the whole time, realistically, you won't be able to complete that. So those are some of the things that your charts are able to help you to do. And then it helps the team also to negotiate, like I said, scope increase during the sprint. So even though we're half team into the sprint and the PO has accepted that, oh, okay, so just okay, let's take 40 in because you people are half and all that. And then within the sprint, the PO is coming to add more to the sprint for us to do, because we know we have limited members. We've taken in already 40 story points in, and we need to negotiate the extra that is coming in. If it takes priority over everything else that we're doing, which I think during when we're doing the capacity planning, I did make mention of that you would negotiate that the total effort that is coming in, if it is an 8, we have to take out a low priority 8 in order to accommodate that 8 that is coming. So that at the end of the day, we still have our 40 story point that we are working on during the sprint is not going up, whereby again we're not able to complete. You don't want your team members to burn out, and then you don't want them, because they want to satisfy the product owner, to rush whatsoever they're doing, and then there's a lot of defects at the end of the day. We don't want that. So you're negotiating so that they're working in a conducive environment where they are able to thrive and they are able to be more productive, not when they are on pressure and overwhelmed with work. Okay, so those are some of the benefits that we get from the velocity chart. Now, some of the things that we need to consider when we're looking at the velocity chart are some of the things I've mentioned already. Okay, so one of them is that you can only use information on your velocity chart to forecast when you have your team composition remaining constant, which is one of the things I've said. So if we're going to take 80 story points in, then we have to have full capacity. If that is what we used to achieve that 80. So when that composition is not constant, when it's not the same, we can't take the 80 in. Okay, so that's some of the things you need to consider. And that's some of the things you understand. You need to help the team to understand, and you need to protect or shield the team when you negotiate that with the product owner. Another thing is that you can only use your PBI or your efforts velocity chart to forecast. You can't, if you generate, which people don't generate, you can generate it, but it's really not ideal to use your task velocity chart, because with task there are different level with task. Okay, and task, remember, is individual, not like the stories. For the stories, both the developer and the KOAs will work on it. For individual task, it's just one person that will work on a particular task at a time. So you don't have the developer working on task 1, 2, 3, and then you won't have the tester working on task 1, 2, 3. So the developer will work on task 1, 2, 3, and then the QA will generate task 1, 2, 4, their own individual tasks to work on. And that's why it's not ideal to use your task to generate a task velocity chart or to use it to forecast. Okay. And then work is considered planned when it is committed to the sprint at the sprint start date. So when you commit it to the sprint, the second day of the sprint, you won't have that planned bar on it, which we will see right now. Okay, so this is again, this is the velocity chart looking at release velocity chart. So you can see it's tracking sprints rather than tracking is tracking or over a sprint, and which is what your velocity chart. So this is tracking sprint, is not tracking, and it's tracking the story point. So the way you know it's tracking the story point is when you look at the what you have here. The information you have here will tell you what is tracking. I prefer to put it here to say maybe story point velocity or effort velocity or PBI velocity, so that I know exactly what is tracking. Okay, but over here also, even if that is not done, put there, over here you're able to see it would put it there what is tracking. So here is this one is tracking a story point per sprint, and it's saying that their average velocity is 39. So what he's saying is that in the next sprint they're going into, they should use the baseline of having all the story point they're going to work on being 39. So what he's saying is, at this particular point, you can't do more than 39. Now, for us to know that we can't do more than, for us to know if we can do more than 39 or not, is to know the capacity that completed that sprint, this particular sprint, 104. What capacity completed it? The whole sprint, the whole team, full capacity, half capacity will determine. Yeah. And these are some of the things you want to keep track of also as a Scrum Master. Checking the velocity as they go ahead to say, okay, I've noticed that at least for the past 3 sprints, nobody went on holiday, and the velocity, average velocity has been so. You note that, and then you're able to use that to negotiate when the time comes with product owner or even with the team themselves. Okay. All right, so we want to see some also. Okay, so like I said, these are some of the ones that were generated on Azure DevOps projects that I've been on, and you can see effort velocity there. Yeah, and also you can see that this is tracking the effort. I told you that it will always put it here, whatever is tracking, it will always put it here. And it's saying the average velocity for this team is 8. So what it's saying is don't take in anything more than 8 story points into the next sprint that you're going into. And then you can see how a pattern also. So during this sprint now, you can see that what they committed was a bit higher, and this is what they were able to complete. So in going into the next sprint, they must have stayed within the average velocity, because you can see that they didn't go high again. What they planned. So the blue line, the blue bar is planned. The dark green bar is completed, works that are completed on time. The light green bar is works that are completed late. Okay, so you can see here they did that. And then when it came to sprint 11, it could be overzealousness because they completed everything in sprint 10. And then you can see how high that bar is. That is taking in about something around 16 story points. And you can see that everything was completed late. So they did complete something, but they just didn't complete late. So these are some of the things maybe for this team during this time to say, why did we complete work late? Why was it that we didn't complete any work on time during the sprint? There might be a reason, a very concrete reason for that, but it's just for the team to be able to discuss, know what the root cause is, analyze it, and then put an improvement plan in place to ensure that maybe that doesn't happen again. And again, you can see, I don't think is a good plan after this to take in this much again into the next sprint. Okay. And then you can see that they completed some on time, but the high number of work that was completed are completed late. So when you're looking at completed late are works that are completed after the end of sprint. So let's assume that the sprint ended 31st of October. Anything put in the completed column at the 1st of November is counted as completed late. So they completed it, but they just completed it late. Okay. And then on in sprint 13, they took in. So this I put this there because you can use this also to give you information when you're putting your metrics on your reports. Okay, so there is a way when you hover over it, is going to bring this up, and then you're able to leave that there and screenshot, because then that gives the whosoever is looking at this the information that in this sprint they planned 13 and they completed 13. So nothing was completed late and nothing was remaining at the end of that sprint. They were able to complete everything. And the same happens to this. So you only do this. Let's assume that sprint 13 is the sprint that you wanted to report about. You wanted to put the report on your sprint on. You can generate this with this label, pop-up label, to give whoever is reading that report, more information about that particular sprint. You can do it for all of them, but you can only do one at a time. Yeah. Okay. So, and then you can see the PBI here of that same project. And again, I've done the pop-up for the sprint 13 of the same project, and you can see the difference. So they put two PBIs in, they were able to complete the two PBIs they were put in, and nothing completed late, nothing still remaining. So even though you have an effort of 13 here, this effort of 13 is on this two PBI that was taken into that particular sprint. So this is a PBI velocity chart, and this is an effort velocity chart. Okay, so we want to look at where the charts are located on Azure DevOps. So when you're looking at the Azure DevOps, the first place is on your dashboard. You can create multiple charts on your dashboard. On your main backlog, under analytics, you can find your velocity charts there. But and then on your sprint backlog, on the analytics also, you can find your sprint burn down charts on that one also. Sorry, quickly. And then the source is there are widgets on that you can add onto your dashboard, or that can be installed from the marketplace extension, depending on the charts that you're looking. But most of your charts are already on the widgets that are on the dashboard, and I would show us how we can, generate them in shortly. Okay, so any question from anyone before we go on the board and try to have a workshop of generating our metrics on the dashboard? Any question from anyone? Any questions? Okay. Right. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If one of us can share the screen, and then we can show us how we can generate the metrics on our dashboard, and also go to our main board and sprint board and see the analytics, how we can see it on our analytics also. All right. So who is sharing the screen?
This is really okay.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's quickly see where it is on the main board and the sprint board before we go to the dashboard. So this is your main board, this is your backlog, okay? If you go at the top where you have Summit Team, underneath it, you can see analytics. If you click on that, so remember the one for the main board is showing you your velocity, okay? Because we've not set it up. No, click full report. It should be able to show us something. No, not the full report for cumulative, for velocity. At the bottom, there is view full report of that.
Should I do for velocity? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so if you scroll down, you see it. Yeah. So that's so it's showing you the incomplete. Now, it's possible that when you did, you're not seeing the blue bar, which is the planned one, because you didn't move all your work items into the sprint on the first day of your sprint. That's why you're not seeing the blue plan. But you can see sprint one underneath it. And you can see that everything is incomplete for now. Okay, so that's for your velocity chart. If you want to see the one for your burn down, if you go to sprint on your left panel, okay, and there's analytics again there. Click on that. Also scroll down. Okay, so that has not been configured properly. So, all right. Yeah. Okay, so scroll back up. Where you have backlog / work items, open that drop down. So instead of your task backlog, you want to track your task. The one at the bottom, work item, is what you want to track. So click on that. And then scroll down for me, please. Okay, so it's not showing anything. Let's go on to the task board, the part where you have task board, where you have the analytics. There is, if you go back left, okay, click on your, yeah, so you can see that your team members have not created any work item, sorry, any task against the stories that have been committed into sprint. And your sprint is finishing on Monday. So does that mean they've not been working? You've been having stand up, isn't it?
Yes.
So you're supposed to be having your stand up on your sprint board.
I don't understand what you mean by having that on the
You've been
board.
having stand up, isn't it? What do you discuss during your stand up?
Yeah, we do. We just what we did the day before, what we're doing today, and if anyone's got blockers.
How is that being visible on your board?
Yeah, I don't just share the board and we have that conversation, it updates.
Okay. So right now, all the work you have in the sprint are still in committed. Does that mean the developer is not doing anything?
Yeah, because we had the the project renewed, if I can use that word, because we actually had the first time we had the sprint planning, we had some stories that were created, but now we have a new project and the BAs have just gone ahead to create new stories, do the wireframe, and we only had an ad hoc sprint planning, I'm sorry, refinement yesterday, which we committed. We're still waiting on the developer to pick them up.
Okay. So are you as Scrum Masters reaching out to your developer to check when he's going to pick up the work? You can't leave them. If you leave them, they won't do anything.
Yeah, Comfort, do you want to answer that, please? Because she was our task was to reach
Yes,
out.
I reached out to him. He came yesterday. Um, but he left because we we had to end the we had to go for the different meetings. I think that's why he left. But we continue with the refinement without him. So, but he knew that we committed stories yesterday.
Okay. So um
Except if I
so
need
he
to do
wasn't
another
part of
follow-up.
the refinement session, or he started, he didn't complete.
Yeah.
Okay. So as Scrum Masters, I want you to do some things for me. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, it could be because it's an ad hoc one. Yeah. So it wasn't planned on time and everything. But you
Hmm.
should have a particular day when you do your refinement. Let's say your refinement is done a week before the beginning of a new sprint. And that gives you enough time to ensure that you've gotten in touch with everybody and they know they have to be at the meeting. Now, because the developers you have are outside your team, which happens in real life also, you might have a developer that is working with you who is not part of that organization or part of your team. So that means you need to take that extra effort to reach out to that person to get their commitment to be at that meeting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So for the developers you're working with right now, they are outside your team. You have your QAs in your team, but your developers are outside your team. So you have to take that extra effort to make sure you reach out to that person to say, oh, we have refinement at so day and at so time and everything, just to make sure you're aware. Would you be coming? So it's not just about telling them alone, but getting their commitment that they would be there at that meeting. And ensuring also that you facilitate that meeting in such a way that it is productive, it is focused, it is productive, so that you're able to get what you need that person for in that meeting. They don't leave and say, oh, don't worry, just continue and everything, because you don't want to have that experience. That developer has his experience already. You want to have the experience of, I'm a scrum master, I've brought the developers in. Are they doing what they need to do? Collaborating well with the team, because these are one of the things you will use in selling yourself on your CV. Yeah. That you'll help the team to collaborate well, communicate and collaborate well for all the scrum ceremonies that they need to do. That is one of your main role as a scrum master, as an ADM or an APM, is that you help your team to communicate and collaborate well. Okay. So by tomorrow, I know he might not be coming to your stand-up. Okay. Just reach out to him to say that, okay, all the stories are ready. They meet your definition of ready. They are ready to be worked on. When does it start working? And let him know when the sprint ends. So even if he's not able to complete everything you've taken into the sprint, at least let's see him starting.
Right.
Do you understand? Let him see him starting up. And then your keywords also can start work. They don't need to wait for the developer, because they need to write their test scripts. So while the developer is working, they can create their task also, and start writing their test script. So because they won't start writing that test script when the developer finish working. So what they do when the developer finish working is just to go ahead and do the testing, because they've done their right, they've written their test cases already, which I want to believe they've been taught already. So again, once you have your stand-up, definitely your keywords are in the meeting. You can tell them, so what have you done? Oh, we're waiting for the developers. You don't need to wait for the developers. You can start writing your test cases. And if they said, yes, we are writing our test cases, but it's not showing on the board. So this is you coaching your team members how to use the board. I'm going to do that tonight. And I'll check your board at the end of Monday is the 3rd now. Okay, so I'll check to ensure that your team members have created, at least the QAs have created their task. So to create a task against any of the works that you have on your sprint, Funke, if you click on the plus sign, the plus sign in front of any of those stories.
Okay.
So click on it. That's the task. Okay, so just write QA and put dash in front of it. You can delete it later on. Just put dash in front of it. And then just write test cases. Okay, so click out of it. And that particular task is created against that home page. So you can click the same plus again and put developer, or just put dev. I think that's what they normally put, just to show that they are the ones working on it. So you can put dash, just put the home page. So that what that means is I'm developing the home page. Okay, click out of it. So normally you're not the ones to do this for them. They need to self-manage and do this. But I'm just showing you as the Scrum Master so that you can show them what they need to do. Yeah. So once they've done this, where they have unassigned, they'll put their name, whosoever is the QA that is working on this particular one, because you have more than one, will put their name there. And then that little box you have in front, that just showed now in front, put maybe 2 there, write 2, click on it, it will be, yeah, and put 2 in there. The one at the bottom, I want you to put 2 inside that one also. So remember that they've given you the capacity in hours. So when you go on your capacity page now, you will see that they've given you capacity that, oh, it's going to take me so time to work on this as maybe as a developer or as okay. So let's use ourselves to practice, and then we can delete it later on. So the ones where you have QA, let's assume Funke is the QA. I want you to assign that to yourself. And then the one at the bottom, I want you to assign Adetoye to that. Okay, so you can create another story in that, another task for that story, and put manual test. And still put your name because you're the keyword there. So assign it to yourself. Okay, put 2 in that one. Let's change the upper one to 1, the test cases, because it's not going to take you an effort of 2 to do your test case. Okay, so what can you notice? Tell me what you can notice. Anybody, not just Funke alone. What have you noticed with those 3 task work items?
Serial task numbers.
Okay, apart from that, what else? Anybody?
Then the home page was okay, no, sorry.
I think I'm seeing 5 there now. It's like
Very good. That's what I want you to pick.
Okay.
So what that is saying is at the top, they had for homepage, there's a 5 hours work that has not started. And you can see on the homepage story itself, it's saying that there's a total of 5 hours of tasks to do on that story. So your task, the task is estimated in hours. What that is saying is it's going to take me 1 hour to do that activity. That is different from the story points that everybody voted during sprint planning. Have I confused you now? Because this one is always confusing to everyone. Yeah. Okay. Let me use bricklayers at a building site to explain this. So we're looking at the efforts. The trailer has come to drop everything that needed to be dropped. A trailer load of blocks for the laborers to take to the next floor. Maybe it's the second floor, the first floor, wherever they need to keep those blocks in. And then the foreman is looking at it and saying, what effort, is it going to take us to do this? Oh, 4 of us can do it, or 5 of us can do it. Now that will be the story points. That's the effort. Now, by the time they start carrying it, maybe the main person there will say, there are 40 blocks, so I'm going to carry 20. And is that 20, I'm within 5 hours, I've carried my 20. Another one will say, my own is going to take me 6 hours. The experience will talk, the power, the energy of each person will determine the number of hours. So let's even assume that they all have 20 blocks to carry, and there are 3 of them. And the man wants them to, it's going to take the 3 of you to do it, is the story point, like we said. And then you're looking at the time it takes each person to do it. Like I said, experience will talk. So maybe somebody would use, if I use wheelbarrow, I can be taking 5, 5, 5, 5, and then it's just going to take me 4 hours to do it. Another person is looking at, I don't have the strength to carry 5 at a go. I'll be taking my own one by one. Definitely it's going to take him more hours to do it. that is the hours you're staying in front. So for everyone's task, they put the hours it's going to take them to complete it. So the QA Funke is looking at it and says, test case, it's going to take me 1 hour. I'll create my test cases. Maybe Funke is experienced and you know what to do and all that. Then Dan is coming and Dan is not as experienced as Funke. For the same test cases, Dan can put 3 hours. So say, oh, it will take me 3 hours. Maybe because he's new on the environment, there are some things he doesn't, understand and everything. So the hours is calculating what you will do per activity, while the story point is looking at the effort is going to take everyone that will work on that story to do what they need to do. And that is not, you're not looking at effort in hours. Like I said, there are different things you consider when you're looking at your effort. But your task also, you're looking at, okay, per day, this is what it's going to take me. So even though right now we've just used example of putting 1, 2, 3, in workplaces, you can see 8. In workplaces, you can see something like 15, 10, 13. And then you're equating that to that 6 hours per day that they have. So if somebody puts a 12 on their task, that person is invariably telling you it's going to take me 2 days, because remember, 6 hours is per day. It's going to take me 2 days to get this done. Okay, so you want to put those there. Okay, so Funke, move any one of them, maybe your test case, to in progress. Let's see what will happen. So you've tried, you can see that it's now 4-1. So what you said is my 1 hour is now in progress. I've started using my 1 hour. It's not in to do anymore. I'm using it now. And it has reduced from to do. You can see to do has become 4. And your 1 hour now has started counting in progress. Now move that test case to done. Can you still see the 1 hour? Can we still see the 1 hour? We can't.
No.
Why can't we see it?
It's already done. Because it's already done.
Yeah, because it's being used up. That's why you're not seeing it anymore. And you can see the task is showing done.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are the ways they need to put their what is it called there? Okay, so let's go on our board. We'll do a bit of back and forth, but just so we can see. Yeah, any question before we go on the dashboard? Okay, go ahead.
Now, I can see that in the home page, the something has changed to 4 instead of 5.
Yeah, because one has been completed, one has been used up already.
So the effort on the home page, earlier, is it 5 hours or days? But when they are doing the
No.
voting,
There are
they are
different
voting
people
on
that
5.
created the task. You can see Funke's on there. You can see yours there because you are the developer. Funke is the QA. So Funke has used, out of the 3 hours that Funke planned to use on that particular story, she's used 1, which is the one for her test case. She still has 2 hours for manual test, which she can't start until you have finished development work. But she's able to do her test cases without you starting development work, because test cases is just writing to say, this is the way I'm going to test, based on the requirements that you have in the story. So they use the requirements that are in the story to say, oh, given that I am when I is what they use to create their test cases.
Okay.
So they are able to do that. It's like, oh, let me write it before it's a way for them to take off that aspect of things before you finish testing. So by the time they start their manual test, because they've done their test cases, it makes their work faster.
Okay.
Any other question before we go on the dashboard?
Another one was when they are doing the voting, they are voting on for days, not for hours.
Okay, so when they are voting on the main board, on the stories. You know the stories where you have in the first column here,
Yes.
the 13025, on the main board, that's the one they vote for efforts. The one we've just created now, which is the task that has the yellow stripe on the side is individual voting. It's not even voting now, it's individual estimation. The one for the story is a collaborative voting to get the effort. But what you have on the task is the hours I know it will take me to develop, because it's not 3 person that is going to develop now. It's just going to be Adetoye alone as a developer that is going to develop. So it is you that you're putting your hours that is going to take you to develop on that particular task. So this one is different from what you have on the effort. The effort is collaboratively. This is what is going to take us to do this work based on complexity on all that and everything. So that is not what you're seeing on the task. The task, your task is counting hours. It's going to take me this hour to do this thing. While on the story, what you have is an effort. It's going to
Okay.
take us this big effort to do it based on some factors, which I've explained to us when we were talking about it the other time.
That's the strength, the capacity, and
Yeah, is
technical.
the things you look at is you're looking at the complexity. Do I understand? Not even understand, because you would have understood during the
Experience,
refinement. But either the complexity, an
experience,
environment you've not been before, where I need to spike before I start working on it and all that are some of some of the things, but the volume also. Because okay, for an home page now, there's a lot of things on the home page and all that. So a developer might feel that, okay, for me to create it and all that, even though there's a wireframe and everything, before I put this there and everything, if it's a developer that has been working on that developer's environment, yes, it might be easier for them. For a new developer that is just going on that environment is another thing. For a new developer that has not used the kind of tools, development tools that is being used, that still need to learn a bit, their own, efforts when they are voting will be higher. So those are the things you consider when you're doing your story point estimation effort on the particular story itself. It's different from the hours you're putting during the sprint that is going to take you to work on your individual task or activity, which is what you're putting on your task. Don't worry, you will get used to it by the time. It's because I'm explaining. By the time you start seeing it in practice, when they are doing the um sprints planning, at least you'll have roughly 6 sprints planning, to understand it better when they're putting their task. The hours is going to take them to do their individual task, and then the effort in. You'll be able to see it differently.
okay.
Okay. All right, Funke, do you want to go on the dashboard? So if
And
you
I actually
okay.
have 2 questions. Yes.
All right, go ahead.
The task is created, and let's say we have someone who is new and is not used to the environment, like you said. When we do the sprint, what did you refine?
Sprint
No,
planning.
sprint planning, yeah. When we do the
Mm-hmm.
sprint planning and the team is estimating, it's
Mm-hmm.
when somebody does a high one, we say, well, why are you saying why are you selecting 3 and the other one is saying 1? And we can meet up and say, okay, either we all agree to a 3 or whatever way it works. But in this case now, if someone comes and puts say 5
Mm-hmm.
and or maybe 6, that's 2 days. And ordinarily, just like the test case, it should be 1. But because they don't know better, they just put that figure and say, so should the Scrum Master come once we see it to say, oh, why have you done, just the way we do it in sprint planning? Do we do
No,
that
you
here?
for this, the why have you voted? You do that for the effort because it's a
For
collaborative
effort,
effort.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But when
yeah.
it comes to the task, if he says it's gonna take him 5 hours to do it, leave him. He's telling you the
Leave.
time he knows it's gonna take him. So that was
Okay.
why, remember when we were doing the board configuration, if you open up the task, I'll show you something.
Okay, then the
Open up any
second
of the tasks.
question. Second
Okay.
question, because for our definition of ready, when we're beginning to compute or create our charter. My question, when the QAs are doing their bit or the dev, so before this can go to done, all of this that we've said, that number one, they need to create the task, they need to, would that be part of what the definition of ready is for their, or is it definition of done for a
No,
task?
that would be part of their definition of ready. But remember, definition of ready looks at definition of ready for the story.
Yeah, for the story, that's what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, so this task they are creating and all that is for after the definition of ready. So what we're looking at ready for is what is ready. The checklist we're marking for ready is on the story itself.
Okay,
Does it
thank
have
you.
the
Okay.
acceptance criteria? Does it have description? Does it have wireframe? Has it been refined and everything? So it's ready for us to work on it.
Okay.
That's what your definition of ready is.
Ready
So
is.
all these task creation and all that is part of what we need to do for visibility purposes that they are working. So once they've created their task and all that, even all the task has been created, estimated and all that, your stand-up should be on your sprint board on this place. And then you're using that story, this story that they've created, this task, sorry, they've created to get their updates. Okay, so let me take it a bit further for you. Go and use the filter. So if you go to the top where you have column options, there is a filter, another one. The second one is a filter. Click on that filter. Okay, so you can see that he's brought something up. So if you have everybody, they've created their task with their estimated hours on it and all that. If you go to assigned to on that, yeah, if you click on it, you're able to use this to get updates from people. So if you go to 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐂𝐓 name now and click on 𝐂𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐍𝐄𝐓 name, every task that has your name comes up. Click out. Every task that has your name comes up, and then you're saying, "Oh, 𝐂𝐿𝐎𝐍𝐿𝐻, can you give your update, please?" So for sprint 1 is there's a bit of hiccup and all that. So, but when your sprint 2 is starting, now you know better what you need to do to prepare the board and how they can do their stand-ups every time. Yeah, especially for the developers
Board.
and the testers during your stand-up every day. And then if you open that drop down where your name is and look for 𝐂𝐿𝐻𝐇 zone, we created a story for him. Click yours out, and then it will bring up everything that has to do with 𝐂𝐿𝐻𝐇, and then you can get an update. So that you don't keep scrolling up and down looking for people's name. You're able to do this for your developers and your testers. Use the filter to bring out people's name so that they can give you their update on what they're working on.
But we can't do it by team. No, it's got to be by name.
No, you have to do it by name.
Okay.
So you have the name of all the people that are going to create that task is the developer and the QAs. And they are
Okay.
the ones you want to get updates from. Yeah? Okay. Okay, so to close, just open it up, then do clear at the bottom. Yeah, and if you want to close that filter, so just go to the X on the side. No. Yeah, there. Just clear filter. It will remove it. Okay, if it doesn't remove it, go back to the filter at the top where you picked it from, and just click on it again. No. Yeah, click on it again. It takes stuff. So let's go on your dashboard now. Yeah,
When
the
you
blue
say
one.
dashboard, is that the board of?
No, dashboard. Just click on overview, then go to dashboard. Okay, so you can see your dashboard is created already. So you have your Go widgets, you have your. So let's check. Just scroll down. Okay, so you see those few. You remember when we looked at this thing at the analytics earlier on? We couldn't see any blue on the sprint burn down. Where's the sprint burn down now? The one you just, yeah. You can see the little blue you're seeing is those 4 hours that we've put on. So if they don't create their task and estimate it in hours, you won't see anything in these charts that you're seeing. Yeah. That chart that has the green dash, 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 which is the capacity, because they've not created their task and estimated it in hours, it's not going to show anything. So the little blue line you're seeing there are the few tasks that we've created now
Just
and we've
create.
estimated in hours. That's what you're doing. If we go now and delete all of them and come back here, you won't see anything again there. Yeah. So I know sprint 1 is almost over and all that, but just this helps you to know what you need to do for sprint 2.
Okay, and a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have about 24 stories that the BAs have already approved. So they've got to go in, despite the fact that we've only committed 4. So their focus will be on the 4 for now, that is in sprint. So when we're going into sprint 2, the other stories that they want to move into sprint 2, they'll go after we've moved it to sprint 2. That's when they'll now create tasks for them as well.
Yes. So
So
every
only
time
the
you are
4
in a new sprint,
Okay.
it's when they create stories.
Okay.
But because today is Friday and I know there is no thing on Saturday and Sunday, I don't think you do your internship on Saturday and Sunday. I'm not sure.
No.
Yeah, okay. So that means until Monday again. And Monday is the end of your sprint, isn't it? So they
Yeah.
can still create those tasks on Monday because Monday is still part of your sprint. It's the last day of your sprint.
Yeah.
Just so you have something to show, and then to show also that adds value, that at least you've taught them that how to do that. They can create it and put it in hours, even though it's the last day of sprint.
Okay, but
By
it's
the
only
time
after the sprint has started that you can do this.
yes, on your
Okay.
sprint planning day, it's better to do it on your sprint planning. After they've done their estimation, the next thing they do after estimation, you come back to the board and you ask everybody, what's the total story point we have? Developer testers, are you comfortable for us to take this story point forward and all that? If they said yes and all that, you move all the stories into, okay, let's go back on your main board, which I think you've done already anyway, because for me to be able to see those stories on the sprint, that means that was done. Okay, so move it. So you can see that even though you've moved them into sprint, they are still in your approved. They need to be in committed. So all the stories you have, they are in committed though, because on your board they are in committed. No, don't move the ones in approved. They are in committed, and you can see your developer is working already. All the
Yeah.
stories are in dev done.
Yeah. Because they were in committed before. Now
Okay, good.
he's in dev and done already. So fantastic.
Okay, so he's finished. So that means the tester should have by now started. And another thing to pinpoint out for you. So your developer is Babs, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, Babatunde. Okay, cool. So you can see that when he picked it and started working on it, he changed the assigned to his name.
Yes.
So any keyword that is going to pick this, when they put it in keyword, they need to change it to their own name. Remove it from Babatunde's name because it has left the developers arena now. It's with the keywords.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So any
But
question? Yeah.
for the dev now, he didn't have a task created for this.
It should have. Okay, because if you open the one you have at the bottom, I think that's what we've created. On that ticket you're looking at, there is a yellow box at the bottom that says 2/4. Click on it. Okay, so you can see that is, scroll down, please.
Oops.
Okay, so I think he created, because the one we created was manual test, dev homepage, and QA
No, we
test
did
cases.
dev homepage. So I think this is homepage dev.
That's the one he created, that homepage dev task. We weren't
Yeah.
the one that created that, remember? So that's the
No,
one he created. But however, it's not showing on your. Click on it, please. Click on the title for me.
this one.
Yes, please. Open it up. Yeah, it should be showing on your sprint, but it's not showing though. Because it's in sprint 1, as you can see. So he did create a task for himself. So let's close it at the top. Close it. Let's go back to, then close this one. Just click on where you have that 2.4 to close all of them up again. Where you have the 2.4, click on that. Let's go back to your sprint. So I think he's working right now. Do you understand? He might be working right now as we're on this board doing what we're doing. He's working also. Because you can see his name that he's. So let's delete the ones we've created. No, he does his own. Don't delete his own. That's his own.
Oh, sorry.
So the ones you have at here, just click on your 3 dots. You should have delete there. So delete it. So he's working right now, thinking as we're doing this workshop. So as not to confuse him, let's just delete the ones we've created before he thinks there's another developer working on the. Okay. So because he knows his onions, you can see that he's doing what he needs to do. He's moving things. The only thing, can you scroll down for me, please? Because I can see a 4 in to do. And we've deleted all the ones we created. So I just want to see if those are his own. So he's created this task here. Just keep scrolling down. I want to see where that 4 comes from. Oh, there's a 4. Okay, refresh. Because that 4 might be from the previous one. If you go to where your URL is, you'll see your refresh there. So you can see that 4 is gone. So he's working right now, maybe as we're doing this workshop, he's working because initially when we came, there was no task there. So he's done what he needs to do. It's just for you to reach out now. For the ones he's completed doing, reach out to your QA and tell them that developer has worked on some of the stories and they need to start test. So they need to come here also and create their tests, their task for testing. Yeah. And then you can because we've removed the hours now. There was a blue box before. In the box on the top left corner is not there anymore now because we've removed that hours. And if they don't estimate their task in hours, you won't be able to get your metrics up and running. So you need to tell them, even the developer, you need to tell him that, can he please estimate his task in hours? He knows he should.
Well, is
Yeah,
it on?
now that
Is it?
the QAs don't know about this and we're not able to communicate, even if you tell them that the dev is done and they start working, can they do the estimation at a later time in their hours? That's what I mean. Because if we wait till Monday, they're not going to be able to do anything.
Yes, they should be able to. They should still carry on what they're doing, and then maybe by Monday come on the board, create it on
Great.
in
Okay.
to do, put the hours there, and then move it across.
Okay then. Oh.
Please, I want to ask, is it normal for them to work without full estimating on hours?
It's because he shouldn't. He should be able to put his hours there to say it's gonna take me. If we're doing this in a normal work environment, he will be working during the day, isn't it? So you
Yes.
would have seen it that he didn't put his hours, and you would have maybe notify him, nudge him, to say, "Oh, you didn't estimate your task in hours." But I'm looking at the fact that he's gone to work, he's come back, and this is the time he has, to do what he needed to do.
Or maybe because it's on contract, so it doesn't need, yeah.
Even anybody on contract will still do the same thing. Because if you're on contract out there in the workforce, you work during the day, isn't it? Even you're on contract. So you still need to do the same thing permanent staff are doing. Just reach out to him and tell him, don't worry.
I don't think we have the contact.
But the only thing is because he's taking it to done, there's nothing he can do for the ones that has been done. Well, maybe the one he has not started, at least he can do for that one.
But it's like we didn't have the contact. Maybe unless we make an extra effort through Juliet or Lynn.
So I didn't get that. I just say
It's like we don't have his contact unless we make an extra effort meeting Juliet.
you should have him on your
The team,
board.
Telegram.
And another thing you can do, you have his email. Tag him. It will drop his email for him. So on the one, Funke, if you scroll down, there's one that we still need to do for him, isn't it?
This one.
On that one, open it up. Go to the comment section. There's a comment section, discussion, yeah, where you have discussion there. Okay, so do at, pick his name, Babs. Start typing, it should bring it up when you start, okay? And then just do comma. Could you please help estimate the hours it's taking you to do your task? So carry out your task or whatever. Yeah, on the ones that is completed, he won't be able, even if you put it, it won't show. Because it's, you know, that when we tried it that time, once it's in done, it's not showing anymore. Or at least the one it has not started, it can do that to those ones. And then just save there.
But once it's done, he can't bring it back.
Sorry?
Once it's done, he can't bring the ticket back.
He can bring it back, but remember it's done. So if he brings it back to do it's really unnecessary because it's done already. But at least for this one, since he's created this one and you've put that comment there, yeah, at least for this one we'll be able to track the hours for that one. And then we know that, like I said, Spring 2, at least now you know what you need to tell both the developer and the testers to do.
Yeah, he's only working on the
The first stories, that's fine. Or
5. Is it 4 or 5?
is it 5 or 4?
1, 2, 3,
Fine.
4.
3 years, the 2 to he has 2 to do.
No, I'm talking of the stories they committed. Yeah, it's 4.
Now
All right,
remaining 4
thank
to
you.
work on 4, but he has 2 to do now.
I think the 5th one is a CV. Or am I wrong? Funke, scroll down. There's another one under that. Yeah, those ones are just CVs.
He has nothing to
Again,
do.
for everybody that is going to do that CV, just tell them to create their task and then put the hours it's going to take them to create it.
Okay.
Okay, any other question? Okay, then we can call it a night. Funke, you can stop the recording.
Oh, you did a
Stop
stop
the
or a
recording,
pause
Funke.
now? Stop, okay.